again, everybody, and welcome to The Vault with Bryant McKinnie, our season-long look at the 2001 National Championship team, perhaps the greatest assemblage of talent in the history of college football. They played 12 games. They won all 12 of them. They had 17 players on the roster who went on to be first-round draft picks in the National Football League. For 25 years, people have debated whether that was the greatest team that ever played the game. Well, now the arguments are over because for the next 15 weeks, we are going to hear from the guys that were inside the battle themselves, that were inside the locker room, that had to fight through the adversity that team faced, just like any team ever does, and came out of Virginia Tech and Boston College with victories that allowed them to get to Pasadena. And we're largely going to do it through the eyes of a man who was the Allen Trophy winner on the offensive line. He went on to win that national title. He won a Super Bowl ring in the NFL, and now he has a bust in the College Football Hall of Fame. And that, of course, is everybody's favorite offensive lineman, Bryant McKinnie. And we thought that to kick off this season of The Vault with Bryant McKinnie, that Bryant McKinnie himself would be the first guest. So let's get it going. Bryant, 25 years, man. I remember watching you sitting on the bench in, I guess it was 1999, and you were this monstrous guy, and nobody really knew who you were, and everybody was thinking, why isn't he out on the football field? And you redshirted that year, and then they brought you in 2000, and the rest is history. And man, time flies. Here we are, 20 now. Well, that would have been 26, but 25 years after you guys made history and won the 2001 national title with a team that I believe was the best ever in college football. And how's it feel to be back, bringing out those memories here 25 years later?
It feels great. And then actually in 1999, I was thinking the same thing. Like, why am I sitting over here redshirted? But it paid off. So it was all for a good cause.
Well, we're going to ask you about that a little bit, but let's bring in the gentleman who's going to be the third member of our team on this show the entire football season. He's got a lot of nicknames. I've called him the Answer Man through the years, the voice of the fan. Now he goes by the Truth Teller. He's like a WWE guy, Brian. He like changes personalities on a year-to-year basis. And this is Bruce, the Truth Teller Warner. And Bruce, welcome into the vault here. And I know you're looking forward to this show all season long as we unwrap all the memories from 2001.
Yeah, well, I do have to correct you. You did say 17 draft picks. You meant 17 first-round
17 first-round draft picks, yeah.
Yeah, and we know somebody who was one of those sitting right there. B-Mac, man, it's good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you as well. I'm glad to be here, and let's get into the 2001 season.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm so proud of doing this show with you and Gary. It's going to be awesome. And like you've got all these great guests. Well, look, if you look at the roster, you could just put a check mark on almost every single one of them. 38 got drafted, right? 38. That's almost 50% of your roster. Wow.
It was 11 and just in my class alone, they got drafted.
Wow. That's awesome. It's just this whole thing. 25 years, it's 25 years we kind of suffered because Gary and I have been doing shows ever since then. It's like, okay, let's predict, and we've been wrong for 25 consecutive years, but I think we're going to be right this year. I do.
Yeah, we're getting back on the right track. I mean, last year I feel like was a great season, and I mean be able to play in the national championship back in Miami, and just fall short at the end, but I feel like they had a great season.
All right, Brian, we want to jump to 2001, but we got to set the scene here because you have just an amazing story just on your life and how this all evolved for you and where you came from. And it started in Woodbury, New Jersey. And then you went to that nobody's ever heard of called Lackawanna, Pennsylvania Community College. Okay. Unbelievable. And then obviously the Coral Gables and NFL glory. But take us back to the beginning of the Bryant McKinnie story. Take us back to Woodbury, New Jersey, and what was going on in your life at that point in time when you were going through high school and trying to be a football player. And how did you end up at Lackawanna?
I was just playing. Well, Woodbury is a small school. We graduate probably like 90-something kids in that town or whatever. But I was just playing because my friends played. I wasn't playing like we didn't have like a lot of people we could look up to and say like, oh, they went to the league. You know, it looked like it seemed distant back then for us. So I was just playing because my friends played, and just so happened someone who from the area sent a videotape into the University of Iowa, and they were showing the running back who we had a really good running back, and they looked at him, and then they looked at and they said, well, who is this guy? And it was me. So when they came to the school to visit, the running back, he was a junior. I was already a senior, but it was after National Signing Day. So they were like, well, you know, we don't have any more scholarships, but what we can do is send you to the junior college for 2 years. And in high school, I played defensive end. So they were like, send you to the JUCO for 2 years, give you a full ride, and then sign a letter of intent, and you'll come to Iowa after your 2 years there. But we want you to learn how to play left tackle. So we're going to send you to learn how to play left tackle, and then you'll come to us. So I was like, free education, why not? I mean, if football was fun. So to be able to get a free education, I just took it. And I went there and I had to learn a whole new position out of a left-handed stance, and I'm right-handed. And now as I reflect back to go learn a position that I never played and leave that season and become a JUCO All-American was like, wow, because I had to go back and speak to the school, and I was telling the students like, I had never played this position before, but I was so like determined to not be the weakest link, you know, because you know the guys were veterans and they played O line and I didn't. That I had to really focus in on my craft and really like study and just learn how to be good. So to come in and learn a position in one season and by the end of the season become an All American was like at the time, like looking back now, I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. But I just felt like I was doing my job. That's how I looked at it. And what's crazy is after going into my second season there, Hayden Fry was the head coach at University of Iowa because that's where I was supposed to go to. He retired, so now that just kind of erased my letter of intent, and now other schools could talk to me because before nobody could talk to me because I was already directed going to the University of Iowa.
Wow.
So now I'm going into my second year at the JUCO, and now I'm coming in as a preseason All American. So now it's like, oh, I'm on people's radar, and then I made it through that season as an All American again, and then different people are coming to the school, reaching out, asking me to come on visits. And Art Kehoe, I remember like everybody whispering like, "Oh, somebody from University of Miami's here." I'm not sure who they're here for because we had a couple other guys, you know, who were pretty good too. Um, Ended up being me, and they called me out of class, and they had me come down to the office to talk with Art Kehoe, and he was just saying how excited him watching my film, and he wanted me to come to Miami on a visit and become a Hurricane, and that's kind of like the first steps of me directing myself to Miami.
Man, that's amazing, Bruce. You know, you and I have watched obviously the Hurricanes for many, many years, and you know, we see all these players come to the U, but what people don't get to see very often are the stories
Mhm.
behind them getting to the U. And Bryant, they made a movie, The Blind Side, about another
Mhm.
left tackle,
Yeah,
but
he's my teammate in Baltimore.
really,
Michael
Mike
yeah,
Orr,
Orr.
yeah.
Yeah, we were
that's,
teammates in
that's
Baltimore. We
right.
won the Super Bowl together.
But man, like you could have had your own movie, quite honestly, because like what an amazing story to achieve what you achieved in football, and you never even played the position until you
Right.
were like well into your football career, and the rapid ascent that you had at Miami was absolutely incredible. I mean, by the minute you stepped on the field for the Hurricanes, you were one of the best offensive linemen in the country. So Art Kehoe found you
Yep.
at
He
left
personally
guard.
came to the school and and met me in person.
Wow, and the rest is history. Well, so what made you like Miami at that point in time?
So I took my visits, and then it came down to University of Arkansas. I don't know why. I had a good time there on my visit, and then Miami. I had a great time too, but the weather changed, and then I kind of got under the weather there like the second day because of it was cold and spraying. It was hot in Miami. They had me out till like 5 or 6 in the morning. I wasn't used to that. And then I had to get up the next morning and go across campus to go on tour. So it was like I only had like 3 hours of sleep. So then the second night was like, I don't feel like going out. I'm tired. I've been up all day. But it came down to those two schools. And then another thing too is my offensive coordinator, he went to Arkansas. So he was always in my ear. And then I feel like when they kind of caught wind of like, seemed like he's leaning towards Arkansas. My head coach was like, "Are you crazy?" And then my mom found out. My mom found out too. My mom and dad both found out, and it was like, and my mom started running down like all the different players. Like I was a fan of Jerome Brown, and I was a fan of like Warren Sapp, and just different people. She was telling me all the different players that went there, and then she was talking about the graduation rate and like all this type of thing. I didn't ever realize that. And she just talked about like, and what are you going to do in Arkansas? Like, you know what I mean? So it was just like, okay, Miami. I mean, I did have a good time in Miami, so it was just like a lot of things about the graduation rate and the school's program and history and things like that that I never took into consideration. Then I started educating myself on, and then I was just like, okay, I need to be in Miami.
So it was your mother that gets all the credit, not you. Your mother was the one that did this. That's great.
So Miami was pretty established, at that point, and you come down here to Coral Gables and you walk into that locker room for the first time, and you're a pretty imposing guy, but the first time you walked into the Miami Hurricane locker room, do you remember that and what it was like?
They was hazing back then, so it was like you had and I respect it and I appreciate it now because it does help you bond with your classmates because now you all have to stick together. Because coming in, I came in with Vernon Carey. We both were. I was All American come from JUCO. He was All American come from high school. We both played left tackle. So it was like we weren't. He wasn't speaking to me. I didn't know him. So like somebody kind of looks at you as like competition a little bit. We didn't know each other. We both coming there to play on the same team, but I guess he felt like we're going out for the same position too. So it was like he wasn't really speaking to me as much. But then it came a time where the hazing stuff started in the locker room, and they, the couches were shaped as a U, and when you're a rookie, you're not allowed to walk in the middle of the couch. But somebody called me over there, and I didn't know. Somebody called me like, "Hey, come here, can you change the TV or do something?" And I had to walk through the couch, and then they all started to hear like whoop whoop. And I'm like, then all of a sudden they had William Joseph like just rush like trying to attack me, and I'm like, what is going on? So I ended up getting the best of him, so they broke it up, right? And then they tried to like make us restart it again, and I had got the best of him again. And they felt like as much as they hazed him and did everything the year before, like he should have been tough enough to beat me or whatever, but it just wasn't happening. So, but at the time when it happened, it wasn't too many other people from my class in the room. You know what I mean? So I already knew what happened. So me and Vernon we're not friends, like we're not speaking yet. We're in the same class, but we're not really like hanging out or speaking to each other too much. I seen him do the same thing to Vern. And Vern came in heavy though. Vern came in already like 360. Like Vern was a bigger. He was
Yeah.
like 380. He was big. So when they called him in, I remember Chris Campbell and I think Chevin Marshall, two linebackers, they like jumped him. Like, you know what I mean? Because they couldn't get him on the ground. So it's like they had one had to jump on his back. Like they had like a bunch of them like all tried to start jumping on him. And I sat there and I was like, we don't really deal with each other, but I guess I need to help him because I'm gonna need him to help me. You know what I mean? So I just jumped in, and then
Oh
I
wow.
started pulling some people off of him, and then he was like, because we talked about the story later. He's like, I just felt the power get lighter and lighter, and then he was able to just jump up, and then once I jumped in, that caused Clinton Portis to jump in, Andre Johnson to jump in, because now they're saying like, well, two of our biggest guys, we need to help them because we all going to have to help each other, and that's what really formed the bond of us having each other's back. And it was mainly like the defensive guys that was always like doing that type of stuff. To the point one time, it was a guy, Torrey Mitchell. He ran track, and he was a speed guy, and Philip Buchanan. They ended up in the locker room with some of those veterans, and they tied them up to the wall and left them in the locker room like to leave them in the locker room for the night. Like they tied them up and left them in the locker room. Just so happened, a coach, I don't remember what coach it was. We're going through the locker room, and he heard him like, because they taped them off and on, and he heard him like, and then they were like, what's going on? And he untaped them, and they came back to the dorms. And when I tell you, like, Philip was ready to call his cousins from back home, and like they were pissed off, and I'm like, no, we gonna go back over to this locker room. They went to they had the defense had like a little barbecue, and back then, I don't know how we knew the phone number to where they was at or somebody's phone number. We went back to the locker room and there was one, two, three, four. There was four different ways to get in the locker room. We we roped off all the doors where you only enter one way. And we called them. We told them to come over to the locker room because we're meeting. We had enough. And when they came, we just attacked them. Like our whole class, even Ken Dorsey, we made everybody go. Like, and
Even
when they came in the
Dorsey?
door,
Even
Ken Dorsey
Dorsey.
too. Like we all, Jimmy Sikora, Ken Dorsey. A lot of them got in the back of Jimmy Sikora's pickup truck. We all rode over there together, and we sat in there. And I was like, I'm not going to keep going through this every day. We just wanted to fight them and get it over with. Like, so now that we had to become, instead of us being the prey, it's like now we had to become the predator. Like, no, I'm not going to keep doing this. Like, I'm not, like, y'all keep trying to ambush us when we by ourselves. Like, so now we're going to, turn the tables around, and we're going to sit in here and wait on y'all. And I feel like after we did that, they respected us. Um, and that was the main thing. But it made us become close. So now me and Byron been best friends ever since. But we
Wow,
started
that's
up not
amazing.
speaking to each other. But it forced us to build a trust and a bond. So now from there, when he seen I helped him, when I could have sat back and be like, well, they got me already, or they tried to get me, but I was like, no, because I feel like this may happen again. So I need him to be an ally with me. So I'm going to help him. So that just trying to kind of change everything. And then when they see, when they see me and Big Vern out there against everybody, then Portis jumped in immediately, and Andre Johnson jumped in immediately because they felt like they're going to need us too. So we knew we was having, and then it just made everybody else just all fall in.
Yeah.
It's amazing how football teams come together. They often find a way to do it. In most cases, but all the different ways that it comes together is really wild. So 2000 gets here, and well, the first let me ask you, who decided you were going to be redshirted in
The thing
1919?
was, well, Butch did. So I start off at the bottom of the depth chart, and then I worked my way up to rotating with Robert Hall. So me and him was rotating by the end of camp. Like, he'll take some reps, I'll take some reps. But then what they said was Robert had been with them since the probation and everything. This is his senior year. And then they were like explain to me like, if you have a year under your belt of just being in the system, learning the system, you'll be even better. But me, I'm young. I'm like, I'm gonna play. I feel like I earned it. Like.
Right.
Um, but then I feel like after talking like my mom or dad or somebody, and then it was just like, okay, it does make sense if I have a full year of learning the system that I will be even better, next year. So I did it. But then at one point, even Bush Davis said he was gonna. They were short D lineman, and he was about to convert me back to
Oh
be a
wow.
defensive lineman because they were short D lineman.
He was a defensive coach. That's why he did that.
Yeah.
Right, but then I'm glad he didn't. And then I ended up being redshirted. But then back then too, it was like the first couple of games, they still were making me dress out in case something happened. But it was like a certain amount of games you could go past before, like, if I played a certain amount, then it's like I wouldn't be redshirted. But luckily, the red shirt stuck. I didn't go over the limit or whatever. So I ended up redshirting that season. Then the next season when I came back, it was just like, all right, there's no excuses. I'm just gonna beat out whoever it is that's trying to come in and do whatever. Like, okay, Robert Hall's graduated now, and it's my time to take over this position.
And you did. And you did. The 2000 was a really good season, but it ended up with you guys sitting in the heck watching the TV and realizing they're picking Florida State to go to the title game and play Oklahoma when you beat those guys,
Right.
right? So my question is, what was? I mean, I know what it must have been, but what was the feeling of the team when that happened? Was the anger so bad, so deeply embedded in all you guys that the entire offseason was spent on getting rid of that anger and making it a part of your practice sessions, your film study, just have a laser focus going into 2001. Tell the fans what was going on in the team's mind.
Well, I'm like the season that by us not win going into the national championship, it made us the following year go into the offseason of the theme was controlling your own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the theme: control your own destiny. You don't have the opportunity to lose one game because you lost. We lost the second game of the season to Washington, and then we won the rest of them. And it was just like the whole thing was controlling your own destiny. So now it's like we're going out here, we're going to do these Saturday workouts, and we don't need coaches to be there. We're going to go out here and we're going to compete and play hard against each other. We all looked at each other as we're the best at our positions. So it's like games should be easy to practice because we're going against the best. And we didn't know that at the time. That's just it was our mentality. And I always tell people like a lot of things start with your mentality. We felt like we were the best. Later on, history and time has shown that we actually some of us were,
Mhm.
but that was just a mentality. We just went out there and we just realized we couldn't afford to lose one game because losing one game would get you not in the national championship. So we had no choice but to win all the games the following season.
You guys are sitting around, okay? You have this great season. You beat Florida State. You lost to Washington, but you beat Florida State, and then you're watching Florida State go to the national championship game, and you guys like take us back to that room. I mean, I can only imagine what that room was
Well,
like when that
this
news
is what
dropped.
this is what they told us, right? So if we go out to this was the Sugar Bowl, right? We go to New Orleans and we beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl. This is the only time in life we ever was going to cheer for Florida State. If Florida State would have beat Oklahoma, we would split it. So we were low key rooting for Florida State to beat them because we at least get to split the national championship with them. They couldn't even do that. They couldn't even score a touchdown. The score was like a
Two
weird
points.
score.
They scored 2 points in that game.
Two
Right, two
points,
points.
right?
It's
Was it
like
13-2?
it was like a weird score, like
Yeah,
9-2.
weird.
I don't know, something weird. But it was like the only time we ever would cheer for y'all is
Yeah.
because we wanted the chance to like as long as we beat Florida and then y'all and then Florida State would beat Oklahoma, they would say we would share the title. And they couldn't even pull that off. So then that's when we came like, look, instead of relying on anybody else, we have to control our own destiny and not have to rely on somebody else. And that's where the whole thing came from. So
But who
to sit and
told
watch
you
that
guys
game,
that? Who told you that? Like who said that we're going to go play Florida, and if we beat Florida, we still have a chance to win a vote for the
I
national
want to say
title?
Bush or somebody told us that it was said to us that we beat Florida and if Florida State beats Oklahoma, we would share the national championship with them.
I don't
Do
see
you
how
think
that could
now?
be, though.
Well, then that
I
was
don't.
something that was
They
always
beat the
told
number
to us.
one team. How could that be? I don't see how it could be, but I mean, I guess it was good motivation by Butch to go to the Sugar Bowl and not
That's
lay an egg.
exactly what it was. That's why I was just going to ask Bryant
Yeah,
because,
right.
like, if
That's what Bush
I would
wanted.
ask
You know what's
Butch
crazy
today,
is, and I still believed it to this day because I was like, well,
you still believed it. Yeah, I mean, I think they were trying to keep you guys engaged for the Florida game
Mhm.
oh yeah,
and keep you from boiling over with anger because you got screwed. There was no other way to spin
right.
that, but you still did have to go to the Sugar Bowl and play the Gators, and you obviously took care of business there.
They beat him twice on the field and off the field. That's what Steve
We did.
Spurrier says to this day. They beat us on the field. And they beat us, in Bourbon
We
Street.
did. So on Bourbon Street, where it took place was a group of guys from Gerard Warren and a group of Florida guys. They were in a club with I feel like it was Al Blaze and all them, right? I was with the group of like his name was like me, Vince Wilfork, Najee Davenport, Vernon Curtis, a few of us. Gerard and Najee know each other, so Gerard and his group were coming out of whatever club that the rest of the guys were in from our team, and he was coming out to express to Najee like, "Oh, they just in there and they were starting with us, da da da," like. But they're standing on one side, we're standing on the other side. So, but him and Najee are talking. So now our guys come out the club and they thinking it's a confrontation between us. So they come up like rowdy, like, "Oh, there's something going on." But actually, he's explaining to Najee what just took place inside, and that's why they left. But now the rest of the guys who, was inside, they're coming out and they see it like they're looking at it as like it's a standoff or something. And they're coming up. So y'all hear the whoop, whoop, you hear that again.
You know what that means.
And it's kind of it's a lot of like, jaw jacking back and forth now, even though like Najee's trying to explain, like, oh no, it's not, it's arguments already happening. And I don't know which side did it first, but somebody threw like, one of them grenades, the drinks. Somebody threw it like and like it splashed both sides. I don't know which side threw it first, but like somebody threw one on a group and then somebody threw it back, throwing drinks on people, and that just caused a fight to take place on Bourbon Street. And I'm surprised no pictures ever came out because I remember seeing like cameras flashing. You got these big guys on the middle of Bourbon Street brawling. You know
Crazy.
what I'm saying? So I was surprised no pictures ever came about from that. You know what I mean? But it didn't. But
Social
I mean,
media was not.
social media would have had a field day back then if they was around
But
because it would have been
but
all type of
their
videos.
defensive star, that guy Brown, he had black eye, didn't he? I saw
He
that
did have
picture.
he did have because he got on the news and he talked about it. He got interviewed with a black
Oh, right.
eye.
He got an interview with the black eye, right?
Yeah, so it was like that's how they knew that somebody had They definitely was an altercation because how do you have a black eye? that,
All right, so
that was the person I had to go against. That was my opponent.
you
What was
guys,
his name? Alex Brown?
Yeah, correct.
yeah, that's what it was. All right, so you guys stomp the Gators. You come back home, and it's January 29th, 2001, and Butch Davis walks into a room where you guys are sitting, and he tells you, "I'm leaving." What what was that like for you guys? Take us in there.
Well, for me personally, Bush had I had a chance to already go to the first round that year. So Bush had called me in the office and just was trying to make sure I wasn't leaving. He was like, we need to complete this project. You can't leave because you're like the missing piece, this and the other. Like, so he talked me into just solidified to make sure I wasn't going anywhere. I'm like, yeah, I'm staying. I'm here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Only for like 2 weeks later for him to walk into that meeting, and then we didn't know what he was talking about. Like, it was like he was like giving this speech, and we just sitting here like, what is going on? Because we weren't getting. It was like kind of like land the plane. Like, what are you saying? And he was standing by the exit, and it's like he basically was saying, "So I made a decision to go to Cleveland today." And he said it so fast that he just walked out the door, and we was like, we didn't get a chance to get a reaction to say nothing to him because he had gave this long speech and ended it with basically he's taking his talents to Cleveland and then turned and walked right out.
Wow.
So we kind of sitting there like stunned, like, what? Like, I'm like, you just had me in your office. And we were just talking about next season, things like that. So from there, we just kind of like was lost. Like, who's gonna be the coach? Like, we had everything like how we wanted it to be already. Like, how you gonna leave us right now like this? So, you know what I'm saying?
Wasn't there
So
talk
then,
of Barry Alvarez, Gary?
oh yeah, it definitely was.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
Donna Shalala was coming. She was gonna be the new president, and she wanted to bring Barry Alvarez. Well, there was a little committee of us. It was like myself, Ed Reed, Joaquin, Mike Romp, and one other person, maybe Najee. We went up to Paul D's office and we expressed that we would rather keep it in house, and we suggest to hire somebody that's on staff already. And because we don't want to change anything. We like what we have, and to
Everything's
bring
in
a new
place.
person in, you have to learn a new scheme. You have to learn everything, and that process can still be. So it was like we felt secure in keeping everything how it is, and you just add another coach. That's all you're doing is you're adding one more coach. You're going to lift one
Adding
up
one
to
coach.
be a head coach, and you
Mhm.
just add one coach, and everything else stays the same. And then it was like I feel like he was listening, and I was like, or me and Avery, we want to go on a supplemental draft. I just feel like I needed to say something. I feel like I needed to say something like to get his attention to make him feel like, all right, you're going to lose some players. You know what I mean? There was no portal back then like that. You know what I mean? So it was like I had to just say something dramatic, as I wasn't sure if he was like really taking it when we said. And then lo and behold, they made the announcement that they was hiring Larry Coker, which was a big relief for us.
Mhm.
And from there, it was like, okay, we got Coach Coker. Now we got to make sure. Now we really have to make sure we keep our word. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, did it put extra pressure on you guys to
it
deliver?
did. It
Yeah.
did. But then with Coach Coker, he also negotiated with us too, right? So when it came to the season, we only wanted to be in full pads once a week. I said, listen, Coach Coker, we went up to him as a collective. So we can save our bodies a little bit. We only need to be in pads once a week. I said, just do it until we lose. If we lose, then you put us in pads 2 times a week. Is that a deal? He said, all right, deal. And we feel like it'll help us keep fresh instead of being in the past 2 times a week and all that. It's just like help keep us fresh. Do it until we lose. If we lose, that means we just didn't deserve to be in it. We ain't
Right.
lose.
Well, but and just to put the whole scene in perspective for everybody, I mean, Mel Kiper was projecting you as a top 5 pick in the NFL draft after that 1 year in 2000.
Right, but that's why Bush Davis called me in to make sure I
Yeah,
wasn't having no thoughts of leaving because I was already projected to go high already. So he was trying to make sure I didn't try to leave. So he called me in for that conversation. So that's why it was so odd that you called me in and then 2 weeks later you make sure I don't leave and you leave.
and you leave. Yeah,
Hey, well, he could have gone, and you could have gone to Cleveland and been with him anyhow.
yeah, that's
Well,
right.
we thought that Clinton Portis would go to Cleveland because Cleveland didn't have a pick high enough for me by the time I got drafted. Like Cleveland was down further, so we thought that he would take Clinton Portis, but he took another running back.
Oh,
Huh.
okay.
All right, so you talk about Larry Coker. Let's talk about him for a minute, and then we'll talk about some of the things that happened during the season. You negotiated with him, and
We did.
he put you on that type of level with him as the head coach, which is, and I know you'll agree with this because you played football for many more years. You don't see too many head coaches do that.
No,
Okay,
not at all.
it worked in 2001,
Hmm.
but after another year, the program started to unravel, and Larry eventually got fired. Was that Larry Coker? As you look back on it now, the willingness to negotiate with you guys and not be authoritarian as a head coach, was that his downfall as things went forward and the team was not quite as loaded as your team was?
The thing is, the team, you had different characteristics on each team. You know what I mean? So you had more people who were leaders who's going to hold each other and everybody accountable. So I feel like my year, and even the year behind me, you still had those core guys who's going to hold people, accountable. Because they went on and won. They went undefeated. They just lost in the championship game that they got robbed in. So I feel like they still were holding on to what we started. But you just had those guys who I feel like who were younger, who who weren't able to carry it on. Because Coach Coker kind of did let you kind of I feel like we kind of ran down, our own ship. Like we would discipline each other and say stuff. We didn't have to wait on the coach to correct things. We would correct things amongst each other and to make sure everybody, because we want everybody to be good. So we're trying to make sure, hey, why was you late for class? Like we need you here. Or why did you miss this play? Or why did you like know your assignment? Like we stayed on each other because we were trying to like be perfectionists. So
Yeah.
I feel like we made his job probably a little too easy, and that's probably why. So now when it came to you really have to coach because you don't have the same type of guys that are there to be leaders. He might have got a little too lackadaisical with the guys because you had a 2 year run, 2.5 year run of guys who it was going to hold hold the players accountable. But then you had the waves after us who were just now coming in, good players, but just kind of happy to be there, but wasn't there for the foundation of what we put in. You know what I mean? So they weren't around us. But you had my class, the class after, and even the class with Sean Taylor and them. So the seniors, the juniors, and the sophomores, you had those guys who kind of still understood. But now it's the people that came, 3 years after that, they have no idea of what the tradition was with us and the hazing and things that people went through.
Yeah, you guys were a computer glitch away, a computer number away, and a bad call in the Fiesta Bowl from winning 3 national titles in a row. I mean, it wasn't like you got blown out in any game. You had a computer problem and you had a bad call. You could have won 3 in a row. That would have been incredible. Not that you were there in 2002, but still, it's
No, but
us.
just for the school, for the school, it'd have been incredible. And just because, and I was at the Fiesta Bowl. I went because that was my first year in the league, and I was on the sideline with them guys because I was happy for them. It would have just been great for the school just to be able to say, 3-time national champion, and people like the group behind me, like a DJ Williams and all them, they would have had the opportunity to win 3.
Mhm.
But I mean, things happened. We had the opportunity to be in 3. We had the opportunity where we're actually in 2, but we had a chance to win all 3.
Right. Yeah. Incredible.
It really was. Let's touch on the 2001 season. A couple of the highlights. We're not going to go through every game, but September 1st, 2001, at Penn State, and I
Wow.
remember that. I remember that night, and it was the first time I had been to Penn State, and what a state! Like that's an intimidating stadium to walk into. I mean, they.
I'm gonna tell you something that you probably don't even know about Penn State. And that game is so Lackawanna is in Pennsylvania. And during that time, Penn State, I'm from Jersey, so Penn State was a big school, and they didn't take JUCO transfers during that time. So when it came time for that game, that whole thing came up because of now I became a good player, and they had an opportunity to get me, but they weren't taking transfers. So that became, I feel like, a turning stone for them because they do now, but it became a turning stone for them to now start accepting JUCO players because it was like we're missing out on some good guys because we could have had the opportunity to get this guy, and now he's on the Miami team. And my whole goal was I want to run through your team and make you realize I should have had the opportunity to get this guy, and now he's over here killing our defensive line.
Wasn't that the game where what was his name? Mike Talafaro? He was paralyzed or crippled or something, and they were
And he had him
celebrating
come.
him before the
They had a
game.
new stadium, and he was coming out and walking or something for the first
Right,
time.
right,
It was like
yeah,
a big celebration, and I just feel like it was almost like they were having like a homecoming. Like it was like a lot going
yes.
on against us. So we just feel like, and let's ruin it.
Yeah, and I know it, 25 years ago, but I remember it. I mean, I remember walking out there, and I remember seeing Larry Coker shaking hands with Joe Paterno, and I was like, "Wow, okay." And I could only imagine what was going through Coker's head at that moment. Joe Paterno, this was before his downfall, and it was,
Mhm.
obviously a legendary coach. And here's Larry Coker, first game ever as a head coach, and he's, going head to head with Joe Paterno. What was it like there in the locker room before the game? I mean, this is the first time Larry really in the heat of a battle has to stand up and speak to the team and be a leader and take you guys out there. What was that like that night?
I think we were like a lot of us were self motivated to go out here because we feel like almost like they were playing in our face, like having all these festivities and festivals going on as if they expected to beat us, Um, and they did beat us. I want to say the year I redshirted, remember like Chaffee Field or something, called a pass or did something. Um, and that was the last time we played them. So that was still for a lot of us was still in our minds too. And it was like, and they did that in the Orange Bowl. So now we have the opportunity to kind of get our lick back and do it on their turf in their new stadium with all these things going on. Because I feel like you must have looked at us like we were a weak team to have all this going on. Oh, it's a brand new stadium. We're going to play Miami in it, and we're going to like. So no, we're going to come here and ruin your party.
They had no
You
shot.
did.
Yeah.
We
Penn
were on a
State,
bunch of parties that season.
yeah, Penn State had no shot. They had no shot in that game. It was amazing to watch. Like I said, I remember. Okay, then you come home, you beat Rutgers 61-0. You go to Pitt, you win 43-21. You blow out Troy, and now it's time to go to Doak Campbell Stadium, Florida State. And I believe at that point in time, and I may not have the number right, I think they had won like 47 straight games up there in that stadium, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
You didn't beat Florida State at Florida State. It was very similar to, when Miami went on that run on a 58 game home winning streak in the
Mhm.
OB. And, what do you remember from that day? You guys won that game 48-27, and it was one of your best performances, certainly of the year, but really one of the best performances in Miami football history that day. What do you remember from that moment?
Just to focus and just knowing that this is a team, this is our rivalry team, so the crowd is going to be against us, especially on offense. Is like just being able to communicate well and just read everything and just know you're not gonna be able to hear. Like everything is against you. It's only us that's on the sideline is together. Everybody else is gonna be against you that's in that crowd, in that whole area. And it's just like having to be able to stick together with the guys you came with.
Yeah, and obviously that was the season changer. Like
Mhm.
that's when now people started to look at this Miami team, even though you had been number one and you had the
Mhm.
target, you really were taken seriously now, and that was probably the foundation of eventually saying this might be the best college football team ever.
Do you think so from that game?
I think it was the start of it. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, what bigger test? I mean, I know you had Nebraska in the national championship game, and you had the close calls against Boston College and Virginia Tech, but Florida State in Tallahassee, with that streak they had going, and the way Bobby Bowden had that program going at that time and everything, that might be, if you look at the whole thing, might have
Mhm.
been the signature victory of the season.
Yeah, but they
Okay.
also had beaten Penn State on the road over with 100 and something thousand, which kind of broke the ice. They go to Tallahassee. I don't think they were that scared of going there. They had been there before, but they took care of business. They were the better football team. But I do think Gary's right. That was the springboard. After that, it was almost like downhill. So except for the one up in Boston College, which we'll get to later.
Well, we're going to get to it right now because
Okay.
after Florida State beat Virginia 45-3 and Temple 38-0. So you got a lot of momentum going. And now you're going on the road to Boston College. And you're going to have to tell us what the heck happened that day. I mean, we know about the great play, the Matt Walters interception, Ed Reed taking the ball and running it back for a touchdown, and how that's one of the plays, one of the greatest plays of college football history. We've probably seen it played, 50 times since that day or more. What the heck happened that this team was in that game at Boston College like that in the first place?
I think Gary's saying heck. I would rather say what the hell happened.
Right. You know how like people have the opportunity to play like the number one at anything, right? Whether it could be tennis, boxing, whatever, you get a chance, you're going to give your all at that number one person, right? And I feel like we weren't playing at a level, they were playing at a higher level than we were at the time. We were just playing football, but they were playing to like break our streak. They had a lot more things that they were trying to be like a spoiler for us. And we were just out there kind of coasting and playing until it got crunch time and defense was able to kind of save us because offense wasn't clicking that day. Like we just weren't moving the ball much. We weren't
Why? What happened?
getting
Why?
any
Were you
points.
guys flat, or you just thought you were going to steamroll them?
I don't know what was going on, but we just weren't being a productive offense. And normally we're scoring a lot of points, but that game it just came out flat and it was just like a struggle.
You were scoring in the really in the 40s for most of the season.
Exactly.
You scored 59 the next week against Syracuse. The 3 games before you went 48, 45, 38. How does that happen, Bryant? How does a team that's as good as you guys were suddenly show up one day and nothing goes right? Like, how does that happen?
How about you? Maybe Gary. Maybe human nature. They're all humans. They're great football players, but
Yeah,
maybe
I just feel like you have to play at a level like you have to still try to play at a certain level. Whereas they were more emotionally like invested. I think maybe we were looking ahead. I don't know, like just it just wasn't clicking, and then we were able to escape that, and now we got back into a rhythm of scoring points and things like that, and watching the film and correcting things. But it just was a off week for us.
Yeah, I mean, the next 2 weeks you went 59 against Syracuse and 65 against Washington in that revenge game. So
But that was definitely a revenge game too. So
yeah,
the Washington game was a revenge because y'all are the reasons why we were out of
yeah.
the national championship the year before. So that was just definitely like a whole nother feeling of
crazy, but it's crazy that on that day in Boston you guys couldn't score. Was there any panic on the sideline at any point?
because they looked like they were going in about to score. So it was kind of
Yes.
like, yes, the nerves were like definitely rattling. Like, oh gosh, over the score. It was like, are they going to end our undefeated season? And then luckily Matt Walters, and he finally at the last minute realized that was Ed Reed because he didn't know it was Ed at first because he was like, give me the ball, and he just was running, and then last minute before he like went down, he tossed it to Reed, and Reed finished up with a touchdown. And once I seen that, it was a sigh of relief that went over me and everybody, and they just was able to. I mean, as team should be able to bail us out. They were able to bail us out.
Is Matt Walters still on the group chat?
I think he might be. I got to check.
I mean, that guy, for the level of play that was and the significance it had, Ed Reed stole all the damn oxygen.
Oh, I know, right?
I mean, nobody remembers Matt Walters.
Yeah,
You should
he
get Matt
initiated
Walters
it.
on when you have Ed on the show, at least for like one little segment to explain. Did he really know that was Ed? And when you look at
Oh,
the
he did
film,
the last minute. He did the last
the
minute.
last
He
second,
didn't,
yeah, at the last
yeah,
second, yes,
Yeah,
he
we'll,
didn't
we'll
know
have
at
Ed on the
first.
show. We'll make Ed explain himself, and
yeah.
we'll make him apologize to Matt Walters for stealing that entire moment from him. All right, so like I said, you beat Syracuse 59-0, Washington 65-7. Now you're going at Virginia Tech, and the same thing almost happens again.
Yeah.
The difference this time was because this is the last game of the season here at Virginia Tech. There was a shift in the offensive line. You guys don't probably remember. I tore my meniscus in the game. I came out. So then you had to
Ooh, I
move.
remember that.
Joaquin Gonzalez moved over to left tackle, and Vernon Carey came in the right. So now it became a little shift. So the rhythm kind of was off a little bit more. I hadn't missed any games, but that was the first game I got injured. Maybe in the second quarter, somewhere around there, I got injured with a knee, and they pulled me out. And myself, William Joseph, and Chris Campbell, we all had meniscus because we all went to surgery the same day. And by that being the last game of the season, we all were competing with each other to see who can recover fast enough for the national championship. So that's how I know all three of us because we all went into surgery at the same time. We all was on rehab at the same time, and we all were competing to see who could heal the fastest from our surgery. So on the offense, from an offense standpoint, that game, you had two position changes basically. By me coming out, you had to move Joaquin over to the left. You had to insert Vernon Carey. So now Joaquin's not used to talking to the left guard or doing combos and working, and then Vernon's just coming in live action, and he's now had to work with Martin Biblet and things like that. So I can see things being a little off in that game because of that.
What was the score, Gary? They won by 2,
24.
right?
Yeah,
What is it?
26,
24. Yeah. That was a nail biter.
So now the
But I
team,
felt bad because I'm on the sideline. I feel like I'm helpless. I can't even help. Like
Right.
I'm out the game.
yeah, and remind me, and I'm going to plead ignorance on this. I should know this, but you didn't make it back for the Rose Bowl.
No, I did.
Oh, you did make it back. Okay,
Yeah.
so it was not a major knee surgery.
No, it was a meniscus.
Okay, so what was the rehab like that month trying to get back for the Rose Bowl?
Just doing a range of motion, doing everything to strengthen the knee back after the surgery. But like I said, I had two other guys who had surgery as well, Chris Campbell and William Joseph. So we all were kind of competing with each other, just being competitive of who can get back onto practice field first and who can, get your knee back here and everything. But we all made it back for the game. We all made it back
Back for the game.
for the national championship game.
I have a good memory.
Unfortunately, Chris is no longer with us, which is
sad. Yes.
rest in peace. And the same with Sean, unfortunately, but we'll get to that one day.
All right, so Pasadena.
Yeah.
What what a dominant performance!
So now we're finally here. Now we have finally got to the championship that we've talked about all year. We've planned for all year. Coach Swayze has trained us all year, and this is what we talked about. This was our goal, and now that we're here, we have no choice but to win. And that was the attitude. We felt like we were just as physical as Nebraska. We just felt like we had more speed than them, and I feel like it showed when you watch the game. They had all these big guys. I remember Tony Ufanodi. He was a big he ended up being my teammate in the Vikings, but he was a big guard for them that was strong and powerful. But we felt like we had a big guy like in Vince Wilfork who could battle him. Like we just felt like we had good matchups against him. And now that we're here, and I'm in LA now. So we actually played the national championship out here. And it was just a great experience to be able to go through, media day, just to go through all. We did the Jay Leno show. We did events with them. Had little words with them and all, but when we got on the field, we just knew it was time to take care of business.
You're on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, I'm looking back 25. Eric Crouch was good, but he was not going to beat your team.
But they had like this option thing.
Yeah.
So he was like this good option quarterback that's what like their thing was. And like he was super good at being an option quarterback. And that's how they were like winning these games off of that.
What was the feeling like that night? I think you guys were leading 34-0, or 30. It was. I think it was 30. It might have been
34, 31-0 at the half.
31-0 at half. Yeah, and I think it got didn't it get to 34? I think it did. Yeah.
37-14, I think was the final.
Yeah. So at some point it got to 34. So what was that? I mean, that had to be you're playing for the national title on that kind of stage, and you're dominating. What does that feel like?
We just knew we couldn't let up. Like we are here, do not let up. And it felt like a away game for us because you looked at it was like a sea of red, and you see like the little pockets of like orange and green here and there, but it was like all this red, and it was just like even though we may seem like it's an away game, we got to keep them quiet. We had to get out to a big lead because once you have a big lead, the fans are gonna be quiet. You know what I mean? And that, always on road games, you have to always do that. So I feel like jump out to a lead to shut the fans up, and then you'll be able to operate and communicate better. So we were able to do that.
But that was the moment for you guys. I mean, you guys had never played in the national championship game to that point, and that was the moment. You guys had arrived, at the pinnacle of the game.
we're here. Got to have a parade. It was just a great experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, artistically, it was not a great game. In terms of the viewing audience, because you destroyed them. You were blowing them. Andre had a great game. Kevin had a big game. It was really good to watch. It was just for us, but maybe not the nation. They could have turned it off at halftime.
But 34-0. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna feel like I want to tune into this game.
Now, how come you didn't blow them out even more in the second half? It was like they outscored you 14 to something, right?
Yeah, 14-3.
Yeah. What happened? We can pick on that.
I don't know. Like, we could have kept going. I'm not sure why I don't know. The play calling kind of got like a little different or what, but we didn't score, but a field goal in the second half.
Hooker didn't want to make any mistakes, is what happened.
I guess it was like, just hold on. I guess I don't know.
He dialed it. He dialed it back.
Tell me what it's like when you're on the sideline and you see Vilma make that vicious hit. That the whole stadium got lit up because of that boom. What happened? What were your reactions?
You just feel like a proud brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's right. Like, you know what I mean? So just seeing like your little brother out there making a big play, you're excited for him, and that's your teammate.
Yeah, I mean, he lit it up on that kid. Wow.
So you win the Atlan Trophy.
How about that? I had to travel to Omaha, Nebraska to get. It was funny as I had to travel to Omaha, Nebraska after beating them in the national championship. I had to go to Omaha, Nebraska to get the Allen Trophy. So we had an award. And what's funny is, they had the award show for that in Orlando, and in my same row, Dwight Freeney was in my same row. So they showed my highlights, and a lot of my highlights was of him, of like me playing against him. And I remember him saying like, oh gosh. Fast forward, when we both got inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame the same year. Why my college highlights again is him. They're like, oh gosh. So you hear the eyes like, dog, he did that to you? Again, so it was like almost like history repeating itself, because the award show in Orlando, he was in my row, and then at the thing, it's a long row. So it's like, my highlights, it was him again. And I felt bad by now. Like, oh gosh, I knew my highlights were gonna have the white on here, and I'm making him look crazy, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he was really popular and he was fast, but you got him. You just got him. So that's true. No sacks. You didn't give up any sacks at the U.
Nope.
It's amazing.
That's an incredible stat right there, Gary.
I've heard so many people refuse to believe that.
Yeah, me too.
Why do they refuse? Because somebody will come forward and say, I got one, and nobody's ever come forward to say that because they haven't got one.
Right.
They're not going to say it to your face. I got one.
Somebody would definitely argue that. They keep hearing us say, like, he's never given them sex. Somebody would definitely step forward and say, I did. I got one. Like, you can go back and go through all the footage and everything. There's no film of it. So
I don't remember one. All right. September 2006, a magazine, FHM. You were one of 5 University of Miami alumni who were featured in an article that was called The University of Miami Hit Squad. The Hurricanes are taking over the NFL. Deal with it. And in that article, you said, if you put together a team made up of guys playing in the National Football League who come from the University of Miami, we'd be playing in the Super Bowl this season. And I think we'd win.
I believe that.
You believe that?
Yeah. I mean, you put about 5 of us when we played on the Ravens and we won.
Yep.
They said when we played the 49ers, they said, well, whatever team got the most Hurricanes going to win. And just so happened the Ravens did.
Yeah, so was D Starks on your team too? He was on that 2000.
No, he was going by the. He was on the 2000 team. I played on the 2012.
Okay. Okay.
So is the 2001 Miami Hurricanes football team the greatest college football team to ever play?
That's a question I should ask y'all. What do y'all think? I mean, of course, I'm gonna say yes.
We're going to say yes, of course.
Okay. I mean, they keep comparing. They compare us to the 2019 LSU team, but I don't know anybody on the team. I know they had a good offense, but I don't know anybody. I don't hear big defensive names on that team that would be able to stop our offense.
Yeah, that's true. And they also say the 95 Nebraska. I don't see that at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I hear that too, 95 Nebraska.
And they say the Texas team that beat USC with Vince Young. No way. There's no way. No one would even listen. As motivated as you were for the title game, you would have been motivated against LSU and Nebraska. You would have just destroyed them. The talent level and the depth. It's the depth too. You look at the guys who didn't start. Winslow and Sean didn't start. Mike Gore.
Intro Roll didn't start.
Gore is the second leading rusher in the history of the NFL, and he was third string on your team. So I just don't see where the level of talent was comparable to any of these teams.
All right, well, before we go and we end this debut show of The Vault with Bryant McKinnie, I created a rapid fire sequence of questions that I want to ask all our guests through the season. So, let's start with you, B-Mac. Your greatest memory from the 2001 Florida State game?
2001.
The Florida State game up there in Tallahassee, in Doak.
To be honest, the 2000 was a better memory for me because that was kind of a breakout game for myself, Ken Dorsey, and Jeremy Shockey. So I would go for the 2000 because I had to go against a guy, Jamal Reynolds. So he was another great defensive end who was like a sack master, and it was me who was under the radar, who nobody really knew. So that was kind of a breakout game for me. And then that was the first time we had beat Florida State in 5 years. So to me, when I think about Florida State and playing against them, I always go back to the 2000 game just because of all those things.
Okay.
The greatest practice that you ever witnessed?
The greatest practice. I'm trying not to remember all these practices. I wasn't always in the mood to be at practice. I was just there, but we had some great practices. I mean, a couple of them were like some good raining practices too, like where it was a little muddy and people was sliding on the ground like a slip and slide sometimes. But I feel like we practiced hard against each other, and I feel like that's what made each other better.
Yeah, the legend is, of course, that practices were tougher on Greentree than game day was.
But that was the goal. That's what everybody said. Because I remember Jerome McDougal talking about, he'll say things like, "How you let him do that to you? He's sorry compared to me." Like everybody just felt like they were, good. So it's like, you practice against me. There's no way that this person should be out here performing high against you.
So that's the truth. The practices were tougher than the games.
We practiced hard against each other. I remember one time Sean Taylor, he got in trouble for something. They put him on the scout team, and he was lighting up our one the starters. And then it was like they punished him by putting him over there as like a practice squad. And he took it as, and now I'm gonna show you. And he was lighting up our starters, and then they had to pull him off, like pull him back, like. And it's like I put him over there as punishment, and now he's punishing our starters.
Who was the hardest hitter on the 2001 Miami Hurricanes?
I'm gonna say I probably would say Sean Taylor or Vilma from like the hits that I've seen. But then when it came down to special teams, Kellen Winslow would run down there and throw his body too. So you had like people like Kellen on special teams who would run down and just break wedges. Break wedges. He was. So just those type of people.
That's an interesting memory because other than him, I would say the other player that stands out to me through the years that like was insane on special teams early in their career was Jesse Armstead. He took it to that type of level too, and just made play after play on special teams. Who was your funniest teammate?
The funniest teammate? I don't know. You had a lot of big personalities on that team. Clinton Portis was funny. Yeah. You had Jerome McDougal. Jerome McDougal was funny. Ed Reed could be funny as well. Marquise Fitzgerald. You had a couple guys that were funny. Jeremy Shockey was funny in a more of a no filter way. Just because like one time we were in the team meeting, and I guess he had like trouble jumping off sides one week, and he says like, Coach Chudd is like, "Well, Jeremy, what can we do to get you to stop jumping off sides?" He like, "Well, just go on one," but that's his natural reaction, and everybody kind of chuckled. But it was like Coach Chudd was being serious, but so was Shockey. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like he just tells you exactly how he feels, and it's just a no filter way. It's like, how somebody doesn't like think about what they're saying, they just say exactly what's on their mind. That would be shocking.
Who were your leaders on both sides of the ball? The guy that
Um,
everybody would listen to. Back in the day, it was
well, on
Jerome
defense,
Jerome was the story.
Edry was the leader on the defensive
Okay.
side. Everybody listened to Ed, and Ed was able to bring that defensive side together. And on the offensive side, I would say you could say between like myself and Joaquin and Clinton Portis, because Clinton Portis used to take the offensive out, the O line out every Thursday. That was a tradition. I wouldn't go because I missed the first one, so I'm like, I ain't going to none of them. But he would take them out every Thursday to eat, and I just feel like when we said stuff and we got in the huddle, it was like, let's go. So like Joaquin was very vocal, and I feel like and Portis was very vocal, and then I kind of was like a lead by example type of guy.
So it wasn't Dorsey.
Dorsey didn't have to say much. You had like a whole team around you who just keep you safe. You just throw the ball.
Just throw the ball.
Dorsey would say things here and there, like if he needed to, but I don't feel like he had to constantly say things because you had so many other guys that's always speaking up and saying stuff.
Who was the most underrated player on the 2001 Miami Hurricanes?
Who was underrated? I feel like
you had so many stars. Who was the part of the glue of that team that nobody really realized?
James Lewis. He had like a lot of interceptions, and I feel like he probably didn't get enough shine as he could have because he was a starter for us, and he came in there and he was getting interceptions and making plays. So I would say he was probably pretty underrated.
That's a good. Didn't he have a pick six in the title game?
He did.
Number 23. Yeah, he did. I mean, he was surrounded by guys that had mouths on them, like Phil.
Right. He was surrounded by people who had like bigger personalities, but he was quietly making plays still.
Speaking of personalities, the biggest trash talker.
The
biggest trash talker. So on the offensive side, the biggest trash talker is going to be Clinton Portis. And then on the defensive side, what was the biggest trash talker? The biggest trash talker probably on the defensive side would probably be Jerome McDougal. But his trash talk was like comedic. He would say stuff like as he's roasting you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Mm-hmm. A regular Don Rickles.
All right, guys. Well, it's been fun going down memory lane here, and we're going to do like about 15 of these shows over the course of the football season, and we're going to bring a bunch of BMAX teammates from that 2001 championship team and bring them here into the vault. And I'm sure it's going to be an exciting season, guys. And man, just great memories. And it's nice that at the 25-year anniversary, we get to bring some of them back for everybody. And, I know, Brian, I'm sure you look back now 25 years later, and it had to be such a special moment in your life.
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely was a great moment. I don't know, just so many things that taken place that me originally coming to Miami, I wasn't thinking about. So to win a national championship, and then now to have my name hung up in the stadium forever in the Ring of Honor, just a lot of things that just took place that I'm just appreciative for.
All right, well, that's going to conclude it for our debut show of the Vault, and we got a special guest that we think we have lined up for next week. We're not going to say anything right now because we want to make sure we deliver on it.
Although we did mention his name during the show, we've mentioned a lot of names, but that's okay. One of those.
But we got to fit into schedules and stuff. But we will be back next week with a new episode of the Vault, and we hope that you guys can join us this entire season. And it's going to be a special one. The team's going to be commemorated at some point at Hard Rock Stadium, and I know Adidas has some big things in store as well. So for Bryant McKinnie, who's disappeared on us there, and Bruce, the truth teller, Warner, I'm Gary Furman. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today, and we will see you next time.